We have a really great technology panel coming up, but before we do that, we have a video from one of our sponsors, ModernTech. All right, guys. Welcome back from the break. We have a really interesting panel coming up here, technology and innovation adoption in the real estate industry. The last session, what we talked about is MLS culture. I think that was something that was really important. And it's vital to understand when you're going out and building these MLSs, it's not just a technology stack, it's not just a technology platform. There's a whole lot that goes behind it to keep an MLS running efficiently and make sure that everybody's on the same page in terms of rules and regulations. So switching gears a little bit and going into that technology track, I want to introduce our next moderator, Jeremy Crawford. Come on up, Jeremy.
Buongiorno, Milano. My panelists, please come on up. Thank you all so much for allowing the honor to be in front of you today to talk about innovation and adoption in the real estate industry. I'm Jeremy Crawford, the President and CEO of First Multiple Listing Service. We are a privately owned MLS in Atlanta, Georgia. We are the fourth largest in the United States with a little over 57,000 brokers and agents that we support. We have a unique business model. We don't get paid if the broker and the agent does not get paid. So we are not a subscription-based service MLS. We were actually a transaction billing-based service. So our premise when we were formed in 1957 was that we're here to help the brokers transact real estate, and that is our mission today, is helping our brokers transact real estate. So from our perspective, if the brokers don't close the listing, we did not help them close the listing, and so we do not get paid for that. But today's focus is not on me as your moderator. Today's focus is on my expert, esteemed panelist over here that I'm very happy to introduce. As you all know, you saw John DiMichele come up here earlier, a good industry friend of mine. We've known each other for many years. However, I did not know he was born in Italy until just a few minutes ago. He is the CEO of the Toronto Real Estate Board, and he has his bachelor's in computer science from the University of Waterloo. He has over 2 decades of experience in the MLS and real estate board industries, and he's been CEO for over a decade. And then next to him, I'm very honored, and thank you so much for getting here last minute, Dr. Mahmoud AlBurai. He is the background is Master's in International Business Law from US International, and he has his doctorate in Business Administration from Grenoble École de Management. He is the Senior Director of Innovation and Politics at the Dubai Land Development. He's also the founder of the first real estate institute in the Middle East, and he's known to be an urban activist and, most importantly, the voice of voiceless people. So welcome. Next we have Giulio Azzolini. He is the head of retail at FRIMM, S.p.A. He manages and oversees retail marketing and communication operations of their over 2,800 real estate agents that use the MLS Agents RE platform, which is their in-house developed multiple listing. He also has over 2 decades of real estate industry, and he is a political science graduate from the University of Roma TRREB, i.e. in Rome. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Finally, on the end, we have Andrew Coca, another expert in the real estate industry who's actually been with brokerage community, Keller Williams, as well as the founder of the Coca Group. And now he is the CEO of ModernTech, the great video you just saw shortly below. And he is also was the president of Showingly, Showing Software in the United States. And he has his degree in operations and finance from Babson College. So thank you all. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
So John, since you're sitting next to me, we'll just maybe start off with you, since you're a well-renowned panelist, as we all know.
Thanks. World.
Would like to open the dialogue with you about TRREB and your innovation industry arm and what you all do from a technology creation perspective there. And then also, how do you make selections as you go down the process of technology and innovation, and what helps you with that?
I think it's the concept right now here is to start an MLS. MLS is more or less matured to the point where we're now in an innovation phase, and we are at the point of trying to determine where is the next thing that will serve the consumer better through the professionals that we serve. So when we look at technology as a whole, it's an enabler, but really it's how does that help the human help the other human and give them the appropriate amount of information, data, evidence-based information so that they can make a prudent decision for something that's going to impact their lives. So when we look at the plethora of technology that's out there, we refine the search by getting the feedback from our constituents first. Our consumer is the realtor. They provide the feedback and the backbone to say, well, this is something that we would want to use. And then they'll tell us straight out, realtors vote with their feet. What I mean by that is if they're not using it, why do we keep the product? We may think it's a good product. They may think it's a good product. They may think it's a service that enhances their service to the consumer. But if it's not being used, then we have to reevaluate it in order to give them the opportunity to be successful. And there's so much out there right now, it's hard to determine what's going to be used. But the long and the short of it is, if it's an extension of the realtor to serve the consumer, then that's the focus that we're looking at it. That's what we're looking at today. What is the extension of the realtor or the service provider to the consumer? And that would be the basis of what I look at right now.
And in your perspective, we heard Mary Jo talk this morning in the keynote about we have a lot of lessons learned in the North American MLS marketplace. And one story I remember is how the first web-based MLS was created, which was Tempo, was they went to an ebook convention where Sony had come up with a tablet, and their thought was, let's take the book and move it to an ebook. And the Sony tablet was before its time. Mm-hmm. We don't even know about it. The Intel tablet, which actually had a wood frame, was before its time, and then the Apple tablets took off, right? So how do you take a look at the difference of what you all think that might be the bleeding edge or cutting edge as opposed to what you think would actually be used? And is that something that you all also have to fail fast on when you don't see the adoption of something you've rolled out?
Behavior. And behavior is really critical. So not only do we need evidence-based for the consumer to make a decision, but we look at the evidence-based approach when we're analyzing products and services. Is it accomplishing what we were told it was going to accomplish? So my first rule of thumb is surround myself with people that are smarter than me. That way they can actually help guide us through that process. But that also means realtors, service providers. We've been in great partnership with our service providers for over 20 years. We spend a lot of time meeting and saying, is this where we're going to go? But if you don't look at the behavior of the end user, you're going to waste a lot of time, effort, energy, and potentially resources to get where you think you're going. If you look at the concept of mobile today, I saw a guy make this post a couple weeks ago. He said, I was reluctant to really use the mobile perspective and the tools I had at my disposition, but then he got caught in a situation where he was right in front of a house, his client didn't show up, he needed to know if this house, details on the house, so he looked at his phone, facial ID, opened it up, and he was sitting outside the house and the listing popped up. And he went, oh my God, I can't believe I just did this, because he wasn't a believer himself. But now it's on social media and everybody chimed in. There must have been 100 people that said, yeah, I love that feature. Now, if we're not paying attention to that sort of thing, then we should be. Tablets, mobile, I think that is the future. I think AI is going to provide an amazing experience for both the consumer and the members themselves.
Thank you. We'll go next to you, Dr. Maha. Let's talk about your approach as Director of Innovation and how you all select for the Dubai Land Group what products and pathways of innovation. And also I'd like to hear your perspective. Is this things that you all develop in-house or you contract outside third-party vendors, and how you look at a selection from what do you see you want to own the IP on, or what do you see you want to, let's say, rent the IP on from other trusted parties in your marketplace?
Thank you so much. Well, first, let me correct. I'm heading innovation and policies, not politics. So I'm not
policies. Thank you for that.
Well, as you know, being in Dubai Land Department, we're the government entity that see and oversee the real estate market. And real estate market is a strategic sector in Dubai. It's 15% of our GDP. Last year alone, we had 634 billion dirhams of transaction, the largest in the history of Dubai. And the plan is to reach 1 trillion by 2033. So traditionally, real estate industry is seen as an industry with the least innovation. And this is something we wanted to change. And we said, let's do something different. We believe as a government, we should work on the ecosystem itself to start with. So how do we improve the ecosystem? Well, for us to innovate, we need to share data. So this is where we have data sharing mechanism and policies. But at the same time, we also want to make sure that our laws and regulations are supporting innovation. And that's why recently we developed something called Dubai Real Estate Regulatory Sandbox, where we are now testing tokenization in real estate market. How can we make sure that tokenization has the support, the legal support, the data support? We invite companies, and now our slogan is we want to be the distinct path for PropTech companies. And for us, we're not just looking at PropTech as transaction technologies. We're looking at construction tech, we're looking at city tech, we're looking at anything that supports the ecosystem. And this is what we've been trying to do. So we launched our initiative called Real Estate Evolution Space. This is our innovation ecosystem support initiative. Under it, we have the regulatory sandbox. We have our own incubator to incubate companies who wants to innovate. We have Real Estate Accelerator. We're working now on launching a $100 million PropTech fund to invest in technologies. So our way when it comes to technology and innovation is that we like the government role to be enabler. We don't create our own technology, although we have our own MLS real estate solution internal to do DLD and Dubai Land Department business, but we welcome innovation. Currently, we have around 70 companies in the innovation ecosystem that we're supporting. We want to increase this number. So why we are innovating? We're not just innovating for the sake of innovation. We want the real estate investment to be easy process. Today, Dubai has 200 of nationalities of investors who are investing. Half of them are not residents. So how do we enable them to buy, to sell, to transact, to do things efficiently? We came up with something called Smart Sale. Now people can buy and sell without coming to Dubai. Within 2 minutes, you can buy and sell in Dubai, completely digital. Even if you choose that you don't need a broker, so you go direct to the buyer, that still can happen using this digital sale. So we're developing a lot of technologies that makes investing in Dubai easier, more efficient, to help also investors to manage their properties. What we are now need to work more on is the brokers, and that's why we're here in MLS Forum. Traditionally, our brokers in Dubai, they like competition. When we try to make them work together, we find it difficult. So MLS as a solution is a great solution, but I think what we need to do is to work on our culture of innovation in the city, make sure that real estate agents like to work with each other, they see the benefits, they see the value added from that.
And I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, in Paris last year, there was a comment made that you all have had some policy changes that have reduced the number of brokers attached to a single home for sale, like an exclusive listing. Obviously not a totally exclusive listing, but has that in the past year or so helped with the data side and working with the brokers with some of those policies that have been changed? And again, correct me if I'm wrong on that,
right,
that memory.
Currently in Dubai, we don't have MLS, as you know, but we're talking to different people, and we have today, Ahmed is here, I think, from Arab MLS. So currently what we have is 2 or 3 portals, Property Finder and Bayut. This is more of a listing. In the past, brokers used to list as many properties as they want. So one property can be listed by 20, by 30, by 100 brokers, so it's the same property, and even without approval from the landlords. So we made that clear 2 years ago that one property can be listed maximum by 3 agents, and they have to sign Form A. So we have standardization in Dubai. Form A is the agreement between seller and the broker. Form B, buyer and broker. Form F is between buyer and seller. So we made sure that we standardize all the agreements, all the policies. We made sure that all the portals need to connect with us, need to make sure that they only list authentic listing with authentic owner's information, just to make sure that we have control. So we see the future is one listing or one exclusive listing. So the property to be listed by exclusive agent. We haven't got to that point, but we see that to be served better clients, we need to make sure that we shift to that thing, which is one listing by one agent.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you for that. Home court advantage here, right, in Italy for yourself.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little, since you all have your, I know you're head of retail, but you have your own MLS system in-house for nearly 3,000 agents, which may be growing as we sit here today. Talk to us a little bit about that platform and how you all choose the innovation features inside of that platform that you're going to develop and offer. And I assume with your background in marketing and retail, you're tying that pretty heavily to revenue for the organization.
First of all, let me start by thanking the organization of the MLS Forum and, of course, everyone here. This is like a dream come true for me because for the best part of the last 18 years, I work in MLS in Italy, which is a challenge in itself. So thank you, really thank you. Basically, our platform is an MLS, like an American MLS, adapted to the Italian laws and Italian policies. And also, inside this platform, there is a CRM that enables agents to manage their data better and communicate better with sellers and buyers. You see, this is a key difference between our MLS, or the MLS in Italy, and the American way of doing the MLS. Because for the Italian law, you have to understand that the realtor is a mediator between the buyer and the seller. So the agent is working at the same time for the buyer and the seller. So basically what happens is that realtors are more interested in managing the listings than on managing clients. And with our platforms and with our MLS, with our training about that and webinars and so on, we are trying to make Italian realtors focus on managing clients rather than listings, because clients are like it's like the real property of the agent, you know. The listings is like a turnover, something that changes from time to time. You sell the property and you pass on the next one. This is a difficult thing to understand for Italian realtors, because they are being paid twice for every transaction, okay? So it's difficult for them to think, okay, I can join the MLS, I can join this technology and this way of thinking about my job, and maybe sacrifice some part of the money I get from every transaction. So about the innovation, we are focused on this side of things and try to change realtors' minds in Italy, you know? For us, technology that is really useful and simple to understand and simple to learn, which is a technology that that does not have a steep learning curve, you know? That is the technology that we want to implement. So artificial intelligence can be something like that. Well, okay, we'll look into it and try to put it inside our MLS and CRM. The key is usefulness and this easy learning curve, because it's already difficult for our agents to work in MLS, you know? Right. So there's that.
Well, I think I learned a long time ago there's people, process, and technology, and people is the hardest part of those three.
Yeah.
Technology is the easiest, process is bridging, but the people are really the hardest part of those three from that perspective.
I loved what Mrs. Cowan said before, and it resonated with me. Let's be the disruptors, you know?
Yes.
Let's bring something else to the table, because I think MLS in Italy can really growing. We work with almost 3,000 agents, but it's not enough, you know? So let's bring the cooperation and the discussion. Let's work together to get everyone on board.
Awesome. Thank you. Andrew, we're kind of going to jump into a little more on the technology side. And what do you see, obviously, from your position in ModernTech and working with so many MLSs in the US and Canada and elsewhere, as far as the processes of adopting the innovations that you all either provide from your own company or integrate with other companies that are providing real estate PropTech solutions, and maybe touch on how that interaction with the process with the MLSs that are established in North America work also with standards and choice, if you will.
Yeah, the biggest thing I would say is there's a difference between the MLS as an organization and the MLS technology infrastructure. And of course, the MLS as an organization does many things that are critical in every local market. And that starts with rules, and it translates to ethics and engagement with the agents and real estate professionals in a market. But the technology infrastructure that makes up an MLS is very complex. And of course, it starts with the MLS database and MLS software that puts listings into a database. But then there's so many other players in a local technology ecosystem. In the United States, we've compiled as ModernTech directories of all of the PropTech companies that relate to this ecosystem. Now, in all of PropTech, there are thousands of companies. But in the MLS side of PropTech with technologies relevant to real estate agents, brokers, and MLSs, there's only a few hundred such products. And so what we do is we look at all of the different products that an agent and a broker might use. And in the US, many times the MLSs are paying an enterprise fee for some of these products to offer as a benefit to their agents. That model has been going away in the United States. And instead, they're forming marketing relationships with some of these technologies to take them to their members. So some technologies the MLS ought to pay an enterprise fee for, and those are core technologies to the MLS, like the database, like MLS data distribution. But there's so many different technologies that encompass that technology infrastructure that it's important to know which ones you should pay for and which ones your members should pay for. I think one of the other important things that I would touch on for the global audience is the technology is second to developing some of these rules and some of the laws that need to power the cooperation between agents and brokers in a global market. But once we get to the technology side, we've found that the data is the most important place to start. And of course, with RISO and the global data standards that can take effect, the next step is, how do I turn those standards into a database, and how is that database then going to power my local market? If you start instead with the software aspects, it's a little bit backwards. Starting instead with the MLS database and then starting to add software to that is the right order.
Awesome. And how do you see, from some of the latest releases in innovation, at least in the North American marketplace, how have you seen the adoption change from an agent's perspective in using those tools once they're rolled out in those organizations?
Well, it's important to have an infrastructure to showcase those tools once an MLS makes a partnership, because actually one of the things we work with MLSs for in the States is that marketing infrastructure for getting those tools in front of agents. Sometimes there's no marketing infrastructure, and so a partnership that a technology provider might have with an MLS might lack the necessary means for that provider to successfully enter that market because there's not enough marketing partnership or marketing infrastructure from the MLS's side. So if an MLS or a budding MLS wants to attract the best technologies, there needs to be a strong offering to PropTech companies to entice them to join your market and put all that effort in to join your market. So I think that marketing infrastructure plays a really big part.
John, so I'm going to ask build versus buy, because you all have to balance that every day, and tell us where a story that it didn't go well on either side of the fence and why. Because we're here about lessons learned and we're here about education, and many in the room want to know which is the right pathway and how do you decide, and then what didn't go so well in a story you have, because I know you have many of them, I'm sure.
So we rarely build. We have had our partners build things for us where the premise was, the foundation of what we did was correct. But if they're not going to use it, then you've wasted a lot of time, effort, and energy. 10 years go by, and the market catches up. All of a sudden, they realize, oh, maybe we should be using this. And now they want it in a different iteration of what we originally delivered. And now I'm having a hard time convincing the leaders to invest more into this thing. I'm not going to talk about what it is. But I think when you look at product and you look at services, you have to, I try to understand, this is the way I approach it. There's 4 baselines. 1, what does a seller want? Sell his or her property as quickly as possible with the least amount of inconvenience for the most amount of money. Every realtor knows this. What does a buyer want? To find the appropriate property that they want, knowing full well that they're paying a fair price and getting exactly what they hope they would get. Obviously, there's compromises along the way. What does the realtor want? The realtor wants to make money. And the most important part of all this is that they need the data in order to make, that's the fuel that actually makes all those three things operate. Without that data, and that's why I think this world, this European concept, this now international MLS concept, you've got the baseline to create something really important, whether you build it or you just buy it. Buying is easier because it's proven. Building it, it's a longer process, and then you have to make sure that you can prove it. But if you manage to satisfy all those other baselines, then you've actually created something that's valuable to all the parties involved in that experience. So I don't have a preference, build or buy, although one takes a lot more time, and then the other one takes a lot more money. And I think they all wash out. In the long run, as I said, we've had a few things built, and I would always opt for the proven team, like I said, that are smarter than we could be, that in the end actually will deliver a product, stand behind it, and we can ask them to modify it. So I guess I'm of both minds depending on what it is, but really look at the experience that you can satisfy the baselines that I have identified.
Awesome. So we sometimes talk about the agent's behavior is changed by consumers, their customers. So I'm curious, both technology and policy-wise, have you seen the customer, the consumer dynamic, the buyer, the seller, embrace the changes that you all have made over the years, or embrace the innovation that has actually had the brokers, which you denoted, moving towards an exclusive environment? Has their behavior started to modify, not because just of what you've provided, but what the consumer is also demanding or pushing?
Well, definitely we've seen a lot of changes, especially in the last few years. As we became more transparent as a real estate market, we started to see consumers, they know their rights and they're pushing for their rights. One of the positive impact that comes from technology is it makes things more transparent. Before, the pricing used to be in the hand of the agents, in the hand of developers. But nowadays we have knowledgeable consumers. They know their rights, they know the laws and regulation, they know how much it should go for, and they bargain with you, and they go and find all the information. With the transparency movement we did in Dubai, Dubai now became a transparent market, ranked 28 on a global transparency index. Consumer can go there and find information about the property, how much it was transacted, how much it was sold, how much it's rented for, what is the average of the area, what's the rental index is saying. So we empowered consumers with knowledge. And now when they can go and bargain with developers, they can bargain with brokers, they have an upper hand. In the past, this wasn't the case. And a lot of time brokers, you know, in Dubai, you mentioned something about the number of brokers. Today in Dubai, we have almost 21,000 real estate agents. This number was half of it just a month before Corona. So post-Corona, we doubled our number of agents because the market became more attractive. Now, what we don't have recently is the education. Before, education used to be a must for real estate agents. To be a real estate agent, you have to come, you have to do a course, you have to pass an exam. So the government relaxed that a little bit. So we have a lot of brokers now who came to the market less knowledgeable about laws and regulation. That's why now we are reconsidering our policies to make sure that brokers go into training and capacity building so they can be knowledgeable. But overall, what we see is that data empowered buyers and sellers, and that reflected positively in Dubai. The number of transactions and the value of transaction in the last 2 years is double of the years before, and that shows how much we have trust in the system. What's missing, to tell you the truth, is a platform, MLS, that connects agents with each other. Currently, agents, they have more of a competition mindset. They want to finish the deal on themselves. They don't want to cooperate with other brokers. So we can support with laws and regulation, ethics, and all of that. Technology is there, but I think it takes time and maybe culture to change what's happening. And we're looking forward to hear more on that angle.
It's interesting. I look back at FMLS in 1957 and some of the documents we still have, and they are competing brokers that formed us to cooperate with each other and not compete with each other. They still compete, but looking at our initial onset in the 1957s, there was no technology, there was no database. There was a conversation about cooperation between a broker who has a buyer and a broker who has a listing, even though they were competitors. And that was really the basis of many MLSs formation in the United States. It was not technology-based per se, but part of it was that cooperation of what was in the filing cabinet in each of their buildings, if you will. Giulio, I wanted to ask you a similar question is, are you seeing, you noted, agents' behavior and culture and adoption, are you seeing the consumer drive them in your marketplace and changing how they are operating, not just what you tell from the top down, but from their customer up?
Yes, of course. Basically, agents ask us to change technology or change our platform or change some key features of what we offer them to better interact with their clients, So better communicating with them, and also a new and better way of sharing information, So one of the last things that we did was creating, we call it a matching page, which is basically a landing page customized for every single buyer, in which a realtor can create this landing page with its offers that he chooses from MLS automatically or by hand. And with just this link, the client can interact with listings and with the realtor. And this is something that came from realtors because it came from the clients, So clients understand that they are working with MLS. They like how they are treated and how everything is working. And they want more, so they tell us, can you please create something on which we can interact with them in a better way and treat data in a better way. So can we manage listings, and can we choose listings to put on this page to better suit the client needs? So we did that. And this is just the last thing that happened to us. And we basically have a direct line of communication with realtors to better understand what they need. And almost every time is something that came from the needs of the clients.
Got it. Thank you for that. Andrew, we've got a few more minutes left. Touch on consumer transparency, because we've heard a lot from our panelists today, and we heard some this morning in keynotes that it seems we support consumer transparency, but I would almost say that the U.S. may have had a hiccup in that conversation. So what is your perspective? Because you were a broker, you had your own group, you were an agent, and you had that background before moving into prop tech, if you will. But from a transparency perspective, give us a little bit of your thoughts on that.
I'm not sure if this is a sentiment agents and professionals in global markets feel, but when I was actually selling real estate, I didn't fully grasp the value proposition that the MLS offered, both from a data empowerment side and to a consumer transparency side. I didn't see the value it was providing me per se or the public, and it wasn't until I got into this side of the world that the arguments we're all making from the stage resonated with me, and I did understand them very deeply, having had the agent background, but I actually think that we could do so much better taking this information and helping make sure our agents and professionals not only understand it, but are advocates of it, champions of it, so that it does translate down to the consumer, because ultimately we are all in this not just for the agents, but for consumer transparency and consumer value. And I think that mission is critical to them, and that it gets lost in translation at the agent level sometimes. It certainly did with not only me, but back then, the entire community that I was a part of. And so I think from a transparency standpoint, the law and the legal issues we've had, I think while it can be confusing, what aspects should we avoid now that we have a fresh start to do this globally versus what should we take? I think starting with data standards, starting with what you heard Sam say on stage, the ability to make that standard drive the transparency and drive innovation, I think is the clear place we can agree that is not in question. And so I think starting with MLS data and data standards and the rules that power that is a very clear short-term next step for us.
Awesome. Well, while I would love to sit here and chat all day with you all, we're going to get the hook here shortly, but I want to say thank you all so much for attending, being on this panel, providing your all's expertise, insight. I know that the audience will definitely hit you all up at lunch for more questions and more details, and we encourage that level of collaboration. So to all and to everyone, thank you all so much for our panel today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
That was really a great panel, guys. Good job. One thing I took away from that is even though we're building an MLS today, consumer preferences change, business practices change. What you build today may be irrelevant 5 years from now. So it's always something you got to be thinking about. And to be honest, for the Europeans in the room, that's something that maybe half of our MLSs in the US do a good job of. So that's a really kind of interesting thought and something that you got to consider when building these MLSs in the future. So before we get on to our next panel, we're going to play a video from one of our other sponsors.
In a rapidly changing real estate landscape, where technology drives excellence, we recognize the need for innovation, and PropTex was born. PropTex is reimagining the MLS system and transaction experience for realtors and their clients with cutting-edge technology solutions. With an eye on revolutionizing the profession, PropTex is bringing state-of-the-art tools designed to empower and grow your business. Powerful, easy-to-use technology connecting you and your clients to enhanced real estate services. Tools that will streamline your transactions, simplify your workflow, all delivering critical efficiencies for you and your business. PropTex is leading the way with forward-thinking expertise to advance the real estate industry in Ontario and across the country. PropTex, the future of real estate today.
Okay, so moving on to the next panel here. And before we do that, reminder of the QR code. That QR code will, if you scan that, will take you directly to the LinkedIn page where you can follow all the panelists and also ask them questions. So we've heard from kind of two perspectives so far, the organizational standpoint and the technology perspective, and the technology standpoint as well. One equally as important, if not the most important voice and perspective that we need to listen to are the brokers. So I'm really excited for this next panel. Jason P. Jordan from the LIT International team was going to moderate this. Give him a round of applause.
My mic on? Excellent. First, I want to start with some gratitudes, but I'm going to bring up my panel. So Jeff from Stellar, Judit from Weichert Realty, and we're going to bring up Ernesto next, and then Marika. So I want to start off with, as we get into this discussion, with some gratitudes, because I think that's the good way to kind of start this panel today. I want to thank Ali Attar, Realtina, Sam DeBoard, all the industry leaders that are here today, and everyone who's made a commitment to come be part of this discussion over the next couple of days. I want to personally thank our founder at eXp Realty, Glenn Sanford, for making the trip here. Today, we're celebrating 15 years of innovation at eXp Realty. Congratulations, Glenn. And my brother Ernesto over here with eXp Realty as well. So let's set the stage here. You know, at the Legends International team, we pushed forward as eXp Realty was expanding into new markets, now in 24 around the world. Our team operates in 13 of those 24 countries. And so we experience all kinds of challenges, and not understanding data or having access to data is one of those biggest challenges. So as we kind of get started with the Brave New World, this is the broker's perspectives on what an MLS is. And to kind of start this off, I want you to know this is inspired by the CEO of Stellar MLS, Mary Jo, who had a great keynote earlier today. So this was her really brainchild, so thank you, Mary Jo. They've made a significant investment as the title sponsor here today, so again, gratitude to Stellar for that. So since we're talking about Stellar, Jeff, why don't we start with introductions? Introduce yourself, and then we'll go down the line.
All right, my name is Jeff Fagan. I am the president of Stellar MLS for this calendar year, or actually this fiscal year. I also, my day job that I actually try to earn income at, I'm a regional vice president for a regional real estate company that's been in existence since 1965. We currently operate 47 offices, 17 of which I oversee.
Okay.
And if you want to know the region or my footprint, if you look at the National Hurricane Center where that storm is going to come across, that's my region. So,
wow.
I'm kind of multitasking in my head of what I need to do for that. But
I'm sure. Thanks for being here, though, making the commitment. Judit.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. My name is Judit Agad. I was actually born and raised in Hungary, and I immigrated to the United States when I was 20 years old, and that's when I started my 26-year real estate career. I started as an administrator. I became an executive admin. I became an agent, then a manager, then a real estate broker, a real estate licensed instructor, and at this time, I'm a regional president for Weichert Realtors for Bergen County, New Jersey, as well as Rockland, Orange, and Westchester counties in New York State.
Ernesto.
Ernesto, depending which country I'm in these days. 41 years in Toronto Real Estate Board as a realtor, on the commercial side primarily. The last 4 years we've been supporting the growth of eXp International global growth, especially supporting Portugal and Brazil. And the dream of a global MLS, a global standard, has been a dream for a long time, I think. So I'm excited to be here. And I was kind of thrown here in the last minute. So
Yeah, thank you for stepping up, brother. Marika just arrived. Thank you so much.
I just landed on the next street next to here. Otherwise, I would never make it. I'm Marika Abuashvili, Marika with a difficult last name. I have been a realtor, and as Judith, had many different positions in real estate, but altogether 20 plus years with Coldwell Banker Bain in Seattle. Last was managing broker, and then my past 5 years are with Georgian National Association of Real Estate, where I share my experiences to help elevate the level of professionalism in the real estate industry in Georgia, and helping them with varieties of questions such as, education. And my latest one is MLS.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So thank you all for being here, taking the time, and everyone in the audience. Jeff, why don't we just start with you as, we kind of discussed this idea of a global role of MLS. Let's start by asking, how do MLSs drive value for brokers in today's rapidly evolving real estate markets? And why is it critical for brokers to adapt to these changes?
I think from my perspective as a broker, and my when I got into this industry 20 plus years ago, I come from an industry that was an agriculture industry. So in agriculture, the way I was trained, efficiencies, transparencies, and science, those were the basis. And in a lot of respects, to me, the MLS is that, okay? Because we've heard words like transparency, we've heard words open market, and the biggest single thing is, from an efficiency point of view, is being able to have a sole source of clean, reliable data that translates. Somebody in the earlier panel pointed out that the buyer wants to buy the best at the value they can afford. The seller wants to sell in the shortest amount of time, most efficiently, at the price that they wish to maximize their return.
Right.
And where that interface is through the MLS. And then the components to make that possible Riso has spoken multiple times, but they created the library, or at least articulated the library, that different areas could look at the same data and reliably say that's right. And ultimately, all that is around the concept of trust. Because without the trust that you can predictably rely on this information, and whatever else anybody, whether it's the world or even the United States, ultimately we have to come together with the concept that if we cooperate and if we work together, it will benefit, and that rising tide will lift all the boats. And to bring it back to agriculture a little bit, if you look at a draft horse, which my company developed some nutrition products for, but at the end of the day, that horse, that draft horse, can pull 3,500 kilo by itself. If I put two of those draft horses individually, they both can pull 3,500 kilo. If I put them together,
right,
train them, educate them, help, and then put them forth, they actually don't just pull 7,000 kilo, they pull 15,000 kilo. That, to me, is the concept that if we can embrace working together,
exactly,
we will maximize things.
I think the biggest word that I took away from what Jeff said was trust, right?
Yes.
It's trust in that collaboration. It's trust in the data. But that data we can't trust if we don't have trust in the professionals that are inputting the data.
And we need the library behind it, so we're all speaking the same language, if you will. And then we can build off of all that.
Exactly. So, Judit, let's go to you. Your experience with European markets, particularly MLSs, are relatively new, right? So, what has kind of been the biggest challenges and opportunities, that you maybe see as somebody who's used MLSs a lot, but somebody who's maybe from another country? What do you think might be some of those challenges?
So let me start with how we represent sellers and buyers in New Jersey and in New York, and I think then I'll shift over to open listings and the differences there. So in New York and in New Jersey, we allow exclusive representation of a seller and a buyer. And that really allows that seller to be fully represented, and it allows that agent to explore all of the advertising possibilities, to stage the property, to have professional photos done, and to represent that property the best way possible. So during a listing presentation, the seller and the agent sit down, they fill out a listing agreement, and they put down all the accurate data regarding that property on a contract form. Everyone signs it, and it becomes an enforceable contract, basically. And then the agent goes in the MLS, enters the data, and that's exactly where the magic happens. Within the next 24 hours, that data disseminates to all the potential buyers who are matches for that property. So therefore, the buyer's agents have a much easier way of getting that information to their buyers because it's automatic. You just click a finger and it's done. That information also disseminates to other brokerages, websites, and platforms, and automatically becomes available to all agents to see.
Right.
And the third way to get that information out there is there are portals in the United States that collect data and information from all MLSs and put it on a nationwide database. And then going further, exclusive representation is really the best way to go, because that's how the seller gets the best representation. It allows for all the brokerages to come and participate with that seller, and you just don't see that in Europe. What happens in Europe, from our conversations earlier, is that you have a property that gets listed on a portal, either by the seller or by multiple agents or both, and that data is not all viable. It might not be accurate. The photos might or might not match the property. They might be altered. And the potential buyers out there just don't have the right information that they need, and it's very confusing. So the best way to go is to list a property in the not the New Jersey MLS, in the MLS, and have that reliable source of a collective data that has been verified, that is accurate, and everyone can go into one system and use that system. So with an open listing, I also see challenges for buyers and buyers' agents. They have to go to many different portals to see that property or to look for that property.
Exactly. You know, one thing you mentioned there that I think is really important, especially for those in North America that don't understand a lot of what happens outside of North America, is how much there is non-exclusive representation. And I think that that really drives a lot of the success of the MLS systems in North America. So that kind of leads me into my next question to Ernest or Ernesto, my big brother over there. You know, you've worked internationally now across multiple continents, countries, both MLS, non-MLS. You've worked in markets that had exclusive and non-exclusive. You know, so speak to how brokerage models differ with and without maybe an MLS, and what that MLS role could play in the emerging markets around the world.
Well, I think for the audience, because I was here last year, and I left with one, I always like to take away one thing from these things. And the one thing I took away last year was education. And then I thought about it since on the trip here, you know, what's the deal? So this year is different. Obviously, we doubled in size. And last year was, I would think, I'm not sure what the percentage is, so I'm not even going to guess, but in my mind, if we're 50-50, so 50% of you understand what MLS is, and probably 50% of you don't have a clue, right? So it's like, you know, MLS is from Venus, and the rest of the world is from Mars, right? We should write a book. and so it's, you know, they just don't get it. They just don't get what it does. And so I think education has to be front. You know, I remember, I'm a commercial broker, so CoStar goes into a city, and they spend a year or two collecting data. I think the gentleman in the former panel was talking about you have to know your data information. We don't share data. Trust. Who trusts anybody in global? There's no trust. Are you kidding? There's no trust. There's no exclusivity. It's, pardon my language, it's a poopy show, right? It's really ugly. So I could sit out here and listen to you guys in these beautiful panels and these beautiful speakers speak on MLS and how amazing it is, and that's all great. And it sounds like a foreign language. It sounds something so outrageous globally. And so how do we do that? How do we change that? So that's the challenge. So, you know, I would challenge everybody here, you know, let's have, you know, let's set a goal, 5 years. You know, I think maybe that's more a realistic goal if everybody really pushes towards. You know, the challenge with MLS is the MLSs. You know, it's just like the portals globally, right? There's different MLSs, and they don't speak to each other. Like, I've been in this business a long time. Prior to dial-up, we were in books, so MLSs didn't. So just you know, it's dating myself, but it's okay. And I'm excited at what the future has to hold, and I'm excited that there will be, you know, a global platform.
Right.
You know, that's one of the reasons I love. The main reason I joined EXP is I can work from anywhere, and so to have that ability to work from anywhere, to have access to data and information, to be able to serve the client. So I think MLS has to serve the agents. Right. We have no clue how many agents are in Portugal because there's no agent association. The brokers, some brokers don't want MLS. I mean, I don't know if I've answered your question, but these are the challenges.
No, you haven't. I think you've been very pragmatic with setting a goal out here. And somebody who was a former college athlete, I love goals, right, and setting those. And so he's putting a challenge to all of you watching today to work together to build a global MLS over the next 5 years. Audacious goals require audacious people. And I've met a lot of you here today, and I look forward to meeting you, more of you. But I accept the challenge, Ernesto, right? Because a goal is not a goal unless we put a date behind it, right?
And please learn the language. Please learn the cultures. I think that's important. You know, if any of you are old enough to Charlie Brown movies or cartoons where the teacher goes, wow, 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 that's what it sounds like for, you know, because I've been in conversation with many people, especially when I first got to Portugal 4 years ago, we told them about this amazing thing, MLS. They just laughed at me. They thought, like, yeah, whatever.
You know, continuing on with that, Ernesto, the big thing I took away, also goals, but education. So Marika, when you and I had our prep call, that was one thing, that one word that stuck out for me as something that you really focused on. So, you know, having introduced kind of the MLS principles to the country of Georgia, not the state, the country, right? Can you talk about the pain points, you know, the brokers face in markets without MLS? And how adopting an MLS system can probably help overcome these challenges?
And you want me to do it in 4 minutes?
Well, we're doing really good on time. So Marika, of course, just landed here, so go ahead.
There's a lot of issues I see, and especially because I was fortunate enough to work with Northwest MLS practically for all my adult life, 25 years or so. And I went through all of the stages of MLS developing and evolving and having completely different system, improving with each year. So, but being in real estate without MLS, it just was not something I would even imagine until I arrived to Georgia. And I spoke about that last year at the panel, so I won't repeat myself just in case. But I think basically if we start just listing all the benefits that MLS brings to real estate profession, we can flip the coin and all of those become challenges, all of those become have-nots for all the real estate agents, especially in emerging markets. And I know there's a lot of people here from countries where MLS is not strong yet or just non-existent that can relate to that. Mm-hmm. And just going through a couple of previous conversations, the word trust was mentioned, the word exclusive representation was mentioned. I think those are very, very important words because, first of all, what is real estate profession? We often forget to talk about clients, right? And this is the profession which is primary goal is servicing clients. Right. And I think this is just not even understood to the deep core of what the concept is. Because, and how do I connect it with MLS? To service client fully, to deserve, so to speak, that exclusive trust, exclusive representation, to be able to have this exclusivity contract with your client, you have to offer the client something. Mm-hmm. It's not just your pretty face or just the way you conduct yourself, or because the neighbor knows you, or they've seen you somewhere before, or you have a blog or something like that. It's because of quality of services that you can provide to that client. And how can you provide quality of services to your client? Where I'll just give you one or two examples, depending how much time I have.
You're doing good.
For instance, MLS gives us amazing ability to analyze market independently ourselves. We can do macro analysis, we can do micro analysis, we can go down to the street, we can go down to the building. Only with MLS we can do that. So since one of our roles when we're servicing clients is to price the property, for instance, right? Which is amazing. You experienced agent, you have to be able to know how much a houses or apartments or a land is selling in any given area. How can you do that without statistics? I just simply cannot imagine. You go with your gut feeling, sorry, but it doesn't work in the business, right? We have to have numbers. And so I think this is just one small illustration on how we cannot provide quality services to our clients if we cannot come in and tell them simply, should they sell or they shouldn't? Maybe they shouldn't sell because it will never sell for this price, and if they don't sell for this price, they cannot move on with their other plans, etc., etc. So that's one thing. And we can just build on that, but I'm sure it was discussed many times, and I have just a few minutes. But I want to go back to trust and how to overcome this very big issue of implementing MLS in the countries where it's not yet. I think let's go before the MLS as a system, as technological platform arrives to any given country or any given community.
Right.
I think what has to happen and what gives a huge boost is when there is an entity, organization, or association, or committee, or something like that of people who are absolutely driven by developing the industry, and they have their colleagues' trust. When they have their colleagues' trust, it's a little different trust, but that you, Judith, talk about, but also very, very important ingredient. Then, when you introduce innovation to that community, then the process, I think, doesn't have that many obstacles as it might have otherwise. And I think everybody here who tried to implement MLS in their countries understands what I'm talking about.
You know,
Yeah.
I think if we look at what you just said there, I think of championing our clients, right? But also each other as an association. That we can't build something great alone. That we have to do it together, and I think that is a great perspective that you were just talking about, working with your association, coming together, using that trust, education, putting the client first, right? I think that all those things are key components to building a system like MLS, but it comes from that collaboration, that trust, and working together. So as we kind of look to the future, and we have just a few minutes left here, I'd like to open up the floor, discuss one final question. You know, how can we improve MLS models in North America and around the world to better serve brokers and agents, right? Because it's really the brokers and agents that control the industry if it's set up correctly within MLS, right? So what innovations or structural changes would you like to see? So, go ahead, Jeff, start us off, right?
I'm intrigued because when I look at it in some respects at the United States now, given the current circumstance, it's almost. I had a social study teacher one time tell me life is a circle, everything comes around, and I think that what the United States has gone through, similar to what Europe is wrestling with now, and we created this beautiful system that arguably created more wealth in the history of man, which was the private ownership of property over time. That fundamental of meeting a need of humanity, which is housing, and then allow it to appreciate was a wonderful thing. And in some respects, we're devolving ourselves because of litigation to where we're separating aspects of our industry. And I think that's very sad, and I think it's misguided, and I think it's going to have unintended consequences. Ultimately, what I think we need to do is get back to some fundamental efficiencies. You need a reporting system and to take data, pure, clean data. That's science, that's fact. Take that data and deploy it in a way that individual brokers can create, or entities can create a way that their individual agents and their value proposition can provide to the consumer of the world a way to transact a basic need. and have trust and reliability and all those good things. And I think part of the evolution of this is for us to stop making stupid mistakes or stupid decisions based off what some governmental entity believes. And I'll stop. I know you're going, oh crap, he's going to go there. But
no, it's good.
But you know, get out of our way. Let the marketplace dictate itself in a fair and equitable way with guardrails, which in the United States we've done a good job of that. Stellar has very clear guardrails to guide us in our development of new technologies or the application of these technologies to better be efficient inside the industry itself. And that rising tide will allow, there's enough margin in this that ultimately you don't need a lot on any given transaction, is to allow the efficiency of the marketplace to reward the best at it in the long run.
I think that's Jeff, you know, with 4 minutes that we got here, so let's kind of think on some key quick topics that when you think of the future, kind of what would you like to see, maybe some things, improvements, because we got a couple of minutes and we got to close it out. So
yeah, absolutely. So in New Jersey, we have 8 MLSs. In some countries, you have none, and within one state, we struggle with 8. We don't struggle, we're happy. But here's where we can improve. As a broker, I had to be a member of 7 out of the 8 MLSs, right, so our agents can work in different areas of New Jersey and sell real estate. And one of the pain points where we are, there are 3 MLSs that are kind of overlapping certain towns and certain territories. So if a listing fell onto that territory, an agent had to list it in 3 different MLSs, and that came with more listing fees and more policies to follow, because each MLS comes up with their own rules and regulations, and as a member, you have to follow those rules and regulations, as they are heavily policed, and you should. Also, for a broker standpoint, it's great for compliance to have all those MLSs and to have that information, and it's just a lot more difficult to follow. So, you know, in a great vision, some of the MLSs could get together and cover larger territories and reduce the number of MLSs per state, and in the real world, that would be a great option.
So let's try to get this out in the next, minute and 30 seconds here between the two of you left here, Ernesto and Marika, and talking about when we look into the future and we're looking global, the two of you have a lot of global experience. So if you think about innovation, collaboration, maybe just take 30, 45 seconds each and touch on that. Ernesto?
I just have one thing to say. It's, again, part of the challenge. It's legacy. You guys are the pioneers of this, and it's not for you, it's for the next generation.
Yep.
That's going to take that long. So if you think this is going to happen overnight,
right,
I hope it does. That would be, but there's no fairy dust. I don't think there is. So data, John's somewhere in the room. I think Toronto Real Estate Board started collecting data in 1973. We had 0. So when you search prior to 73, good luck finding anything.
Right.
So whatever we start from now on, because the governments and how they control the data, so if we control the data, right? And I can't speak on North American MLS because, Portuguese, Brazilian, Canadian, so forgive my divided states of America friends. You guys figured that out.
So let's go to Marika. You got about 20 seconds, Marika. I'm sorry.
I'm just saying that since we're talking about existing MLSs, I wouldn't be bringing Georgia's example here. But as far as Northwest MLS, of course, going hand in hand with technology.
Yeah.
And something I picked from Judith is the collaboration, perhaps not even several association and several MLSs in one state, but interstate. Because Seattle and California and Arizona market, they are very, very close. It would be nice to have some kind of united system where data could be exchanged between agents and clients.
Excellent. So thank you all for your invaluable insights. This discussion has been enlightening. I believe it will help shape the future direction of MLS and here in North America and across the globe. I'd like to again thank Stellar MLS for sponsoring and their leadership here on the panels with everybody sharing their experiences. So let's continue our collaboration and let's push the boundaries of what the MLS can achieve. And like Ernesto said, let's be the pioneers and let's be the ones here in the room today that the ones in years forward will remember that we started last year and hear this conversation, and they have the tools and the data and the trust and education because we started here. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You had 4 seconds left.
Wow, I think that might have been my favorite panel yet. You know, of course, we can all build an MLS platform, but unless it's suited for the brokers and what they need now and in the future, it's never going to take. So that was really, really great insights. Moving forward now, I'm also excited for this panel. This is for, we have a sponsor video.
Experience the power of Vesta Plus, an easy-to-use and agent-driven MLS suite. Search public records and MLS data simultaneously with Search Plus. Our highly rated mobile app offers unparalleled client interaction. Showings Plus is a showing management platform that offers API integration with any showing software. Neighborhood Snapshot offers market analytics and reporting. And with Checkmate, you can streamline your compliance with AI, from automated listing violation detection to payment collection. Discover our award-winning software. A seamlessly interconnected platform integrates with any MLS system. Schedule a demo today.
Okay, so like I was saying, this next panel here is going to be really, really interesting. Once you build that MLS, how do you kind of supercharge that? How do you build that whole ecosystem around the actual MLS platform to ensure that you're bringing extra and added value to all of the brokers in the ecosystem? So with that being said, I want to introduce Lynette Kiowski, the managing partner of Reach Canada. Lynette?
On? Yes. Thank you. Well, it's lovely to be here as a first-time attendee to the International MLS Forum. I'm honored to be hosting this conversation with this group of esteemed individuals who have done amazing things in the industry across Canada and the United States. And we were just having a conversation before we got on stage that in our preparation call, we thought, well, how much of the foundation do we set around what's the foundation of an MLS? And thank you so much to our preceding panels for having done such an amazing job of starting to lay that out. But I do think it does warrant, sort of diving in and reiterating some of those things, because I think the rest of our conversation will make much more sense. But before we get there, I would like to have my esteemed colleagues here please introduce each of yourselves, a little bit about yourself, a little bit about where your organization sits in the MLS ecosystem, and some of the things that you're really focused on from a delivery point of view. So Annie, would you please kick us off?
My name is Annie Ives, and I have been in the MLS world for 30 years. So I've seen the MLS evolve from the book, the MLS book, to what it is today. We have 16,000 members. We have created our own software, Vesta Plus. It's been evolving through years. We do license our software to other organizations. And that's about it. That's me.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, we're going to learn lots more about you over the next 25 minutes.
Yeah, right.
Cesar, please.
Yes, hi. My name is Cesar Nasui. I'm a Chief Technology Officer and Business Strategy for Centres. I've been in real estate for the last 16 years. Time flies. And so Centres is a real estate technology company. So we operate the MLS for the province of Quebec, the whole 15,000 plus members. And we also develop solutions for the real estate industries. Our customers span now from Canada to United States and to Europe. Our range of products is from, they focus either on agent, helping the MLS manage the different solutions that are out there. We're going to talk about the App Store. And on the consumer, we have a vision for the consumer and how to integrate all this.
Excellent, thank you. And Matthew, please.
Thank you. My name is Matthew Ambrescia. I'm the president of Second Generation. Second Generation is a family company that's involved in media, technology, and advanced manufacturing. One of the areas in which I focus quite a bit is in top-level domains. We own .realtor and .real estate in addition to 3 other top-level domains. And for people who don't know what a top-level domain is, it's the extension at the end of a web address or a domain name, like .com, .net, .org, which everyone's familiar with. We own .realtor and .real estate, and we focus on enabling the display and discovery of real estate-related websites and agents on the internet through that platform.
Excellent, thank you all. You know, again, in reflecting on the conversations, I think this is a really nice opportunity to begin sort of talking about the opportunities that exist once you have an MLS set up and once it's really operating. I will just, I guess for the benefit of the audience here, sort of qualify my qualifications. So I am the managing partner for REACH Canada. REACH is the global scale-up program underneath NAR. So we work specifically with real estate technology companies who are looking to grow inside the real estate ecosystem. And so we have a number of the solutions, the founders of those companies joining us today from our programs that operate around the world. We have REACH programs operating in 7 countries around the world now. But I was also formerly the CEO of an MLS in Canada. And so this conversation is actually quite near and dear to my heart because as a CEO, innovation and how to decide what to use, how to help your members innovate, how to bring innovation into the MLS, and how to support that innovation was always a very fine balance to be made. And so I think this conversation is going to be really illuminating in terms of thinking about the 50% of us in the room who understand clearly what MLS is and the other 50% who are still sort of getting up to speed will allow you to start to see a little bit down the road and what the possibilities would be. But on that note, Annie, would you please just maybe, again, reframe the conversation around an MLS? And I want to reflect back to Andrew made a comment about there's the MLS, the organization, and there's the MLS, the technology suite. And I think often we think they're disparate and different from one another, but they're really, one needs to come from the other. And so can you maybe from your experience share what an MLS is and what are the core components?
Originally, the main purpose of the MLS is to provide cooperation among real estate professionals. And also, I think the most important purpose of the MLS is to create order in a marketplace with our rules and regulation. But the MLS has evolved into becoming a data tech company. The reason when I decided that we should write our own software is when I started with the MLS, I experienced working with 2 different MLS vendors. I mean, and there were some things that I was not very happy about. I just felt that by having your own technology, you are much more responsive to your customer. We have our own help desk, our own marketing team, our own publishing team, because we also publish a very high-end magazine, a weekly magazine as well. And we feel that, because of our help desk, we log every call that comes in, every comment that comes in, and we meet with the staff on every Friday to go over what has been, what are the calls, the nature of the calls. And I feel that, and then you set your own priorities. You don't have to wait in line with the vendors that have 200 customers and say, well, I can do it in 3 months, I can do it in 4 months. I'm guilty into changing priorities constantly, and my staff has been with me for a long time, so they have adapted to my kind of madness in a way. It just feels that you're more responsive to your customer, and you can create whatever you know that is important to your agent, because basically we created Vesta Plus. First it was called MLS Pro, and then it evolved into Vesta Plus. And it was created by our agent, by their needs and wants. So, and then we started creating ancillary product, like a showing product, a compliance product, market stats product. Actually, we've been very successful with our compliance software, been very popular in the industry. And we do license Vesta Plus to two organizations.
Okay, great. So you've developed the software, and so this goes back to John's point earlier, Jeremy's question around do you buy or do you build? And you've elected to build your internal software for that purpose. And just really quickly, what are the components of the MLS system, like the cooperative parts of the MLS system, that have really enabled you to build the software as successfully as you have? You've mentioned that it was built by agents. Was there something around what was not being met for agents, or were there needs that they had that were not being met through a vendor relationship that you were able to meet by building your own software?
Right. As I said, it was their needs and wants, and we listen to what they want, and if we feel we're not going to build something if one of the agents asks for it, so we want to make sure that it's something that will help the majority of our members. But again, some of the part of the MLS system, and is not as popular as the other part of the MLS system. And we do license software from third-party vendor as well. And we buy a site license, and we provide it at no cost to our agent, or we do a revenue share with our third-party vendor. But again, some of the product, I get stats every month on the usability of a product. Some of them are only used by 10% of a membership.
Right.
So you have to weigh in, what you should invest your money in, and so it's better way is to do revenue share. So you don't invest any money, and you don't, if they use it, then you get a share of the revenue, which is kind of minimal. But anyway, so that's what.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Cesar, you come from a part of Canada that's kind of like its own country within Canada. And so one of the things that I know Centris is really focused on is being able to service a diverse customer base, whether it be language or other things. Can you talk to us a little bit about how Centris has allowed its cooperative nature around the MLS to help develop sort of that muscle of building unique solutions for your customers and then be able to deliver them more broadly as well?
Yeah, right. So the journey began like in 2006 to 2008, where we had to integrate 5 different systems used in the province. So when we looked at that, there were 12 different boards associations in Quebec, and the data was all different. So I remember working in a year and a half, 2 years to integrate all that data, right? So once you look at them, there are particularities, the way they use them, the way they apply them. So we saw early on that you need to have system flexible enough and adaptable to their market. So that was like kind of a first reality check we had, because we had this vision of creating one product used by the whole province. So that was the essence, if you wanted, the Quebec MLS, right? And after that, having this foundation, we said, okay, now we have all that data, and the advantage we saw was like data quality was better, right? Because in some parts of the province, they would fill out some fields, not in the other one. So and with that, even the profession benefited, right? Because having quality data, when you go to see a client that's buying in whatever part of the region, is going to be the same. So after that, once we build kind of that system, we looked to integrate. So focus for our strategy was to integrate partners, industry partners, the tech providers, and to say, what do we need to put in place for the agents to be able to do their job? And so that was I would say, the second part of the strategy. And with time, like we expanded to Canada, we looked and wasn't that difficult from that point because we knew that everything is different and the system was built to adapt. And we just needed to apply ourselves. Okay, what are the differences now because we're looking outside of the borders of Quebec, right? So when we looked at our clients in British Columbia, was for a public portal. Of course, there are differences, but real estate at the base is the same, right? It's the same process, and I would say even in North America. So that was quite easy. And after that, our expansion to United States, again, we built up on, but that was right now was for a member portal. So different parts of a product evolved with time, and we knew from early on because we had to do the language translation. The rules and regulation are a bit different, even from one province to another, and then you go to the United States, even more different, right? But we had that experience, and we realized that actually it's easy to build when you have the system that's flexible enough. And because we were based on integration, when we looked at the other markets, we already had those products integrated. So I'll say, okay, they use the same tools that we use. So that was our realization because our focus, and that's the nice part of having to operate an MLS and to develop software, is that you see what the pains that the agents are firsthand because they would call us first, right? So then we look at what we develop and say, well, this might be good in a different market. So let's just build the software configurable. So you just need the on and off parts of it. That depends how they use. So that was very easy, and I think that prepared us for the European market, which is completely different. but again, we have the experience of a multi-language, we have the experience of configurable systems, and I think this like a build-up with time, and actually the shift from an MLS to manage the needs of your agents, and then moving to a building software that you can actually offer to other partners and to other in different parts of the world, I would say.
Yeah, and I think this comes back a little bit to Annie, to what you were saying as well, where the MLS began as this sort of orderly rule-setting, cooperative infrastructure that allowed you to become this software technology company because you understood your client so deeply well. And I think that's, again, when we work with technology companies, that's the first thing we say is, how well do you know your customer problem? And MLSs are really, the customer are the agents and the consumers, as we've heard a number of times up here. But that natural evolution, it seems natural, it takes a long time, it really does come from that basis. Matthew, I wanted to sort of bring you into the conversation here from a completely different perspective because you don't run an MLS. Your primary focus isn't really the real estate industry per se at the transactional level, but you certainly also have to understand the consumer. So you have a marketing background, and you own the .realtor and .real estate top-level domains. Talk to us a little bit about how, because that's very unique, and so talk to us a little bit how you're able to, how you build success on the top of this organized structure called MLS, how important it is to you, and what something like a top-level domain can do to create brand consistency.
Yeah, thanks for that question. I mean, to me, MLSs are about trust and authority. The previous speaker mentioned that it's about trust, and having a trustworthy database allows for businesses to build efficient markets on top of it. If the data is untrustworthy and consumers see property information that is not correct, at the end of the day, if they end up, that's not the type of property they're looking for, they're going to back out. So creating that trust on the property level is intrinsic to the success of the business of MLS going forward. And I take that same view with .realtor and .real estate. The internet is the wild, wild west. You can be anyone, anything, .com can be, any website can pretend to be anything they want. But if a consumer knows that there's inherent trust behind that website, then that's a leg up in the industry. And real estate, of course, is a huge transaction for many people, the largest of their lives. There's got to be an extreme level of trust within that. So .realtor, for example, is only available to members of the National Association of Realtors or the Canadian Real Estate Association, which in order to be a realtor, as you guys know, you have to adhere to a code of ethics and apply and become a member of the organization. And it's the same thing in order to have a website, a web address that ends in .realtor, you must be one of those, a member of that organization. And that too conveys to the consumer that that website can be trusted. We've also been able to convey to search engines the fact that a .realtor or a .real estate website is going to have real estate related information, or it's going to be run by a realtor who adheres to a different code of ethics. And that changes the internet a little bit. If you're looking for health or medical information and you have a large variety of sources, you don't know who to trust. But if there was an authoritative website that spoke to certain medical information, then that would be a valuable website to people. And it's the same thing in real estate in my mind. If there are a bunch of websites with a bunch of different information that may or may not be correct, that's not going to be an efficient market. But MLSs allow for that data to be trustworthy and authoritative, and then for businesses like mine to build services on top of it that can pull from that trusted information rather than making it up, and then the success is, it's not going to be long-term sustaining. You can only fool people so many times before they're like, okay, well, that's not something I'm going to keep doing.
Great, thank you. One of the things that we've heard so much about today as well is the need to build the organizations, but also the technology that evolves on the basis of standards. Talk to us about a little bit, and I mean, either of you, both of you, whoever would like to go first. What is the importance that standards play? What types of standard protocols you do? Is it the MLS rules? Is it data standards? What are the most important things that you think make your services successful, and why?
For example, in Southern California, standards are so important because we do data share with almost the entire Southern California and some of Northern California.
How many MLSs would that be, Annie?
It's not that many, but it represents almost 150,000 agents or something like that in Southern California, all in all.
So the entire agent base of Canada,
yeah.
right? Yeah, in California.
Okay. Anyway, yeah, I mean, we don't data share with all of Northern California, as I still, kind of do not want to data share, which I think it's really a mistake. But anyway, so if we didn't have those standards, we wouldn't be able to exchange data. And it's so important to data share because the agent do not have to join multiple MLSs to get the data. They can join, it becomes an MLS of choice. So the agent selects the MLS based on maybe customer service or front end or anything else they want to do they would like because they have access to the same data. So, so we do have RED standard and then API. So I know that Sam would like to have everyone move to API, but it's kind of sometimes difficult to have every company switching. So anyway, I feel that standards are essential for business, for an MLS.
And we heard Judith say that a bit earlier, where some of her agents have to belong to, or as a broker, she has to belong to 7 MLSs. This mitigates that. You can belong, as an agent, you could belong to the MLS that met your community needs or was more supportive in other ways, and not have to join it simply for access to the data.
Right, this is very important.
Yeah. Excellent. Cesar, how about you? How do you implement
We've seen the need of a standard early on, and I mentioned last year in Paris that we looked at when we integrate those 5 systems in the province that we had to create what we called back then, and we're talking 2006, 2008, the provincial standard, right? Because we all have to deliver data to someone else, right? Being the agent website to whatever other provider. So we had to establish a standard. We couldn't have we have about 350 different places, businesses we send data to, so we had to have a standard. So that's what we created. We didn't call it that back then. We did it for us. So, now when we look at our global expansion, actually, to support the standard, we made it part of our foundation of expansion. So we adhered to a RISO standard, and we've seen the benefits early on. So we are one of actually the first company in Canada to get certified RISO, and we were among the 3-4 first to certify with the RISO 2.0 standard. And the why, again, because that we've seen it, we have to collaborate, we have to integrate. We said that we believe in having to bring together different systems, and you need to have a common base, because otherwise it's just too long to go to the market, and market will be gone by the time that you're ready, right? So that helped us firsthand, not long after we embarked and we went full speed on RISO with one of our clients in the United States, one of the top 3 MLSs in the United States. When we looked at integrate data, a process that will take weeks and weeks, probably a month, we got it done in under a week because the data was RISO, and then the match just was easier to be done. And we still invest in that, so we bring a solution in the European market, and we're going to have a fully standard RISO database, so we can connect to whatever is going to be there to connect to, right? So for us, we've seen it again. It's been, 16 years that we've seen the need of a standard. So we created ourselves at the beginning, but now there is one. We just adopted to be able to go faster to the market, integrate multiple products.
Excellent. And I think that's, again, I know that it feels like we're taking a bit of a leap from the earlier conversations. We were talking very foundational earlier this morning, and now we're at the delivery stage where this wonderful thing is up and running and it's operating, and now you have the ability to build products and services on top and expand those products and services globally. But I think from the perspective of the folks in this room, one of the things we talked about was that an MLS actually becomes this hub and spoke for additional services to be delivered on top of it. And Matthew, maybe I'd ask you just to lean in there in terms of where your experience where you've seen that the most in terms of, how you're able to build on additional products and services, and whether it's through your experience through marketing or through the top level domains, where you've seen that success really kind of grow because you have this really core central product or hub that you can now grow from.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to data standards, and I said it last year, but businesses like certainty. And no matter what it is, as long as you know what to expect in the future, then you can handle that. If you don't have data standards and you're going to build a business based on displaying that data or manipulating that data in any way, if you don't know that the data will be consistent in the future or consistent across different providers, you're less likely to want to innovate and build into that market. It just creates a further barrier to entry. And having those standards globally and across will allow people to come in and innovate and grow and further enhance and give MLSs many more options to grow that hub and spoke system. And as an entrepreneur, that's what I look for.
Thank you.
Yeah, and if I may add, is that in the room today, there are 2 kinds of conversation, and they're all about rules and regulation, but I see the distinction because probably I am a tech guy, and I see the distinction between the rules of the MLS that many speakers before spoke about, and that's a model that is trying to be ported and adapted to a European market, a global market. And then you have the technology part. And for me, the technology part is simpler, right? Because it's the rules that you give yourself. What's out there? What helps me develop my business? What helps me to integrate faster, right? So in relation to that is data is at the base. As soon as you have a standard, and then you have all this application that develop technology, it's easy. It's like even the business model changes, because we've seen it from our experience moving from a provincial to Canadian and then to international market, is that technology supports it.
Yes.
So even today, being a European model, being a United States, Canadian, or the MLS model, let's call it, or elsewhere, the technology now is mature enough in the real estate, and it's, yeah, you have to adapt it, and we've seen it, like what happened with the lawsuit and everything. So, but for the technology, just a switch, just something, an adaptation that you need to do. So I think the MLS, the technology of an MLS at a base is mature and can go to different markets. You just tweak it. So at least we built it like that. So let the rules, like to get the profession, go with the government and have that rules in the place. But the system is able to handle this, I would say, transition period or disruption period.
Yeah. So I guess what I'm, just to summarize this, is while the rules are being built in burgeoning MLS, the technology is there and available.
Yeah.
And I think that's the perfect segue to our last few minutes here. What I'd love to hear from each of you is, and again, trying to be respectful of the title of our talk, which we briefly touched on, what are you most excited about in terms of a new solution that you're either working on or you're waiting to evolve or you have a vision for to deliver next out of your MLS or from your perspective, Michael, that you'd like to see evolve?
Sure.
Yeah. Matthew.
Sorry, Matthew.
Yeah.
Apologies.
For me, with .realtor and .real estate, we're building tools and products that will allow agents to display properties and information about their market easily. Most real estate agents aren't technologists. They don't want to spend time building websites and or hiring people to do that on their behalf. We offer products that are specifically tailored for real estate market that allow agents to easily spin up a website related to whatever property or type of area they might specialize in. And for me, you need to be at the place where consumers are looking. And consumers are looking all over the place, so you want to be able to be found whenever in any way that they're searching for. So it's not just about having one website, it's about being, if you're a luxury agent or if you're specializing in oceanfront or different areas, you want to have your presence out there in as many places as possible. So when the consumer is looking for that type of product or property or area, then they're going to find you. And that's what I'm excited about of those things that we're building.
Thank you. Annie, how about you?
We have been including AI in our technology. And for example, in our compliance software, we have partnered with a company in New Zealand, and we provide photo compliance and then photo tagging for our listing input. But we want to do a lot of things internally as well with our help desk and with different things that we do. We want to, so that's our priority right now.
So a lot of AI automation.
A lot of AI, yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. And Cesar, take us home.
Yeah, so for us is that if I look at the history of how an MLS evolved in terms of tools and again, and technologies, that at the beginning, we're talking, let's say 5 to 10 years back, there was this platform where we integrated and brought a lot of applications, right? I think every one of us has 40, 80 applications in there. So that was, we were that phase to integrate that. But I think what is moving on is that the layer on top, like, okay, you have those many applications. Do you know which one I used? And we're actually looking at, from the perspective of the agent and the MLS, want to look at develop right now. So we create that fabric where you bring all those tools together, but you integrate a bit more, so for the agent to be productive. Because what happened so far, the MLS portal was just a get in, jump to the tool that you needed. But now what we build and our vision is to bring that efficiency. So we do what we call deep integration, quick actions. So we integrate with our products. If you need to mark a house for sold, as sold, you don't have to go jump into the system where you put it like 3 or 4 more clicks to put it sold. Or deeply integrate our product, we bring it in the member portal, so for the agent, it's easy to do what he does most. So we want him to be productive at what he does. And at the same time, we have we look at, because we operate MLS, we see what our pains are when we imagine all the MLSs out there. Say, okay, we have now 48 applications. Which one are used? How are they used? Do they need training for that? So we bring intelligent data back to, so we close the feedback loop to say, okay, I pay for all this application, and the member pays through the dues, right? But now we bring the actionable data for an MLS to look at, okay, I know which application is used, how much is used, and then I can make a decision, say, oh, I need to push more training, or I'm just flushing the application, right? And then, so when we help the MLS staff how to do their job. So we have this focus on what's called the customer, and for us, the customer is at least 3 of them. So the agent, for sure. The MLS is a customer in itself, right? And he wants to bring more revenues and all that. And then you have the end customer, right? The public, where we looked at the customer journey, and we know if we don't keep the eyes of the consumer, our model will suffer, right? So we're very, very focused on tools for the agents and the MLS, and tools for the consumer, and to make that connection, to connect the consumer with the agent.
Well, thank you. I know that we're a little bit over time, and far be it. I so appreciate all of your insights and your intel. Like I said, it felt like we were sort of starting to dip our toes more into the water of how the actual MLS starts to operate, the challenges that are there, and the good news is, once you build an MLS, the technology, the tools, the capability are available, and we have so many experts in the room that can share that. Far be it from us to keep anybody from lunch. I think that's next. So thank you all for being such a gracious audience, and enjoy the rest of your day.